Welcome back to the third Saturday in October, your SEC tailgating podcast for the rest of us. We're here still covering SEC Media Days. Today, we're going back to the East. We talked about Florida on Monday. We talked Chris covered Alabama on Tuesday for the West, moving alphabetically through the East. Now we're to Georgia, hence the reason I am wearing a Georgia shirt if you're tuning in on YouTube. My father-in-law would be proud. We're in Georgia. It's a gray shirt for those of you who aren't watching and you're just listening. I'm not wearing too much red. I've got Tennessee memorabilia in the background, so don't worry. But I liked a lot of the things that these Georgia players were saying, and their coach. So let's start with Kirby Smart. Coach Kirby Smart. He wins the filibuster award. He spoke the longest. Before taking questions, about 15 minutes. And as I said the other day, he was really the only one who had anything to say about how many of his players have been vaccinated. He said over 85% and growing for his staff and his team have been vaccinated. He also said that the name, image, and likeness there haven't been advantages for some schools over others in the SEC because the SEC, they're kind of all handling it the same way, which I thought was a good move for the SEC's part to encourage their schools to kind of all handle it the same way. He did praise his players who participate in Dogs for Pups, helping area school kids. I always love hearing about that, hearing about college players going and helping schools in the area. It's just a good community thing. I mean, these kids really look up to those players, so it's cool for them. They have adjusted their schedule, especially over the last year, to make sure that the players are connecting with each other, connecting with the coaches. He really said that they've put an emphasis on relationships, not just X's and O's, which is good to hear. I know after this year, we've realized relationships are what we really miss. And that interaction, that it's just a little different in person. So good on the Bulldogs and Coach Smart for looking into that and trying to create ways to build those relationships. He said, in order to compete, we need to get better in every area. Someone had asked him, where do you see your biggest need of improvement? He said, we got to get better everywhere. He did sing the praises of JT Daniels, his quarterback, who made an appearance at SEC Media Days. We'll get to him in just a minute. But just understanding the offense, not only what JT needs to do, but what all the other players need to do, is really vital for a quarterback to know where everybody is supposed to be. And then he was also asked about coaches that he knew, with whom he'd worked, in Brian Harrison at Auburn. He had good things to say about him, and Shane Beamer, who's now at South Carolina. Kirby Smart, you're not going to get a whole lot of flair, like Jeremy Pruitt last year, just trying to talk for a long time. You don't have to take questions. You can kind of control the conversation that way. But nothing that really stood out negatively from Kirby Smart. Go over to JT Daniels. I got to say, I don't know if it was I don't know what it was. He didn't have a lot of charisma, I would say. Just didn't have the personality. That doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. It doesn't mean he's not a leader in the huddle. Maybe he just doesn't like being in front of the press. But he did say a couple things. He was asked, do you think you're the best quarterback in the conference? And his quote was, quote, if you're playing football in this conference, you're a really good player, end quote. That's true. If you're playing in the SEC, you're really good. Even if you're on one of the lower tier teams, you're a really good player. So that was coach speak, but I like that answer, especially coming from somebody who transferred from Southern Cal. transfer to another conference. Just seeing that competition, even in limited play towards the end of last year. He also said, as he's looking forward to this season, he's really excited for the dog walk. He's never experienced the dog walk because they didn't do it last year. He understands that fans in the SEC are just, they're more rabid. They really are just a different species down here in the South. So he's really excited to play in front of full stadiums, in front of those fans. Good to hear. He said his receivers are not only physically ready, but they're mentally ready. I haven't paid attention to a lot of media days, a lot of press conferences for that matter. I thought that was interesting that he said they are mentally ready to play. It's a mental game in the SEC. It's about scheming because players everywhere are so good. You have to have better schemes because you can't always just outman your competition. He had really great things to say about Eric Gilbert as well, who just transferred in for the offense. Said he asks questions and spends a lot of time with coaches just trying to get oriented in the offense. Then they had Jordan Davis, defensive lineman for Georgia. I really like this kid, just personality-wise, his charisma up on stage. He was having fun. Really enjoyed seeing him up there. He was really excited about full stadiums this year. Who isn't? He said his this was in response to a question about name, image, and likeness. How's that going? And that sort of thing. He says, my main priority is playing football. You can't get a name, image, likeness deal if you aren't playing good football. Better football means better deals. You play better. You become more the face of the team. People want you to represent their brand. So he's got a point there. Talking about what's his ideal playing weight. He said, I'm not worried about weight. I'm worried about body fat and how I'm feeling energized. And he's working with the nutritionist. He said, but it's not just being about healthy for football. It's about being healthy for life, which is good because I'm glad these players are thinking not just about football, but life after football. We know all about concussions and what kind of issues they can cause after football later in life, but also knees and joints, just worn out muscles that get torn and ripped apart just in the daily grind of football. I'm glad he's thinking about taking care of his body. And then they asked him, hey, who really pushes you to be a better athlete, to be a better defensive lineman, to be a better person? And he said, Devontae Wyatt, one of the other defensive linemen, pushes him like an older brother. Said they get into all sorts of foolishness and stuff. Just, I think they really love hanging out with each other. But Jordan Davis really seemed like a great kid. Really enjoyed hearing him speak. Like getting to hear JT Daniels' take on what it's like in the SEC compared to the Pac-12 and other conferences, even having only played a few games, but being around a little bit of that, atmosphere of SEC light last year with partial stadiums. And of course, good things from Coach Kirby Smart. Some coach speak, but you're going to get that just about everywhere. So good things. I came away excited to see what Georgia's going to do. They opened the season with Clemson, which is going to be interesting. We'll see how Clemson reloads. We'll see how Georgia reloads. They did lose a little bit of talent, a lot of bit of talent, if depending on who you asked. But they also have some key positions coming back, like JT Daniels running their offense. So that should be good for Georgia. We'll see what all happens come the fall, but that's going to do it for today's Georgia Spotlight here on the third Saturday in October. Don't forget, roll Vols.